faceoff. Shoots it, deflected. Right in. Pietrangelo save rebound. Stopped by Pietrangelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Pietrangelo just made on him as Frankie sparkling on that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to episode 74 of Tendy Talk, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network and the BLPA Podcast Networks. I'm your host, Joe, better known as Wash Up Goalie on social media. This week I chat with Cody Karpinski of the Pensacola Ice Flyers of the SPHL. Cody made me envious by calling in from Pensacola Beach. Not just from the city, but actually on the beach. So, audio isn't perfect, but it's still a great listen. So, without further ado, let's get to the conversation with Cody.
Around real quick, hold on. Yeah, just get a little beach vibes in.
Man, I'm jealous. I'm actually going to be out on the beach, going on a cruise here in 4 weeks. I'm like, just counting down the days.
Where to?
We are getting on the boat in Miami, and we're going to Grand Bahama, then the cruise line's island, and then I think it's Nassau. So it's just a quick 4-day cruise.
Oh man, that'll be sick though. I've always actually wanted to go on like a cruise and do that whole thing because I've heard such good things. But obviously, with the past basically 2 years, it's been pretty hard on, especially them. But anyone really do anything,
We did a Disney cruise like 5 years ago with my family, so it wasn't bad. It was a smaller boat and it was packed and we had the kids and I wound up getting really sick. I had double pneumonia when we got back. I blame
bilateral.
Yeah, I blame my son because he always gets sick like 2 days before a vacation and he's sick for like 30 minutes and then we get it while we're on vacation.
Yeah, you guys always get the tail end of it after he's like fine and then right?
And because like I'm on a cruise, like I'm not taking it easy, and like even the last day of the cruise, right. I ran a 5K on the Disney Island, and I'm like, how the hell did I not die?
With bilateral pneumonia especially.
Yeah, but I still beat my sister, so that I'm like, I can hang my hat on that.
Silver lining, little victory, right?
Yeah, but the room was just tiny. We had an interior room. The not just the tub, but the bathroom was like the size of an outhouse, and you had a shower and a tub in there. Yeah, and so we're like, we're not cruise people. But then my wife was just randomly looking at rates, and because last minute rates are always good rates, and there was one for like a full cabin that has a full size bathroom, a separate bedroom, a sitting room, your own balcony overlooking the back of the ship, and she's like, it's ridiculously cheap. And we were going to bring kids, but their passports expired. Shucks. So it's just like, we'll take advantage of the cheap rate.
Yeah. You guys have to relax and get away a bit, especially being a parent, it's never easy, but like, especially these past 2 years, just, with everything going on, you guys really deserve a bit of a break.
And our kids are 14 and 15, so it's not like we're leaving little ones behind either. So.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's days we'd like to set them on a boat in the middle of the ocean and forget about.
Don't come back.
Yeah, exactly. So we've already been talking. Thanks for joining me on the podcast. It's good to have an Illinois goalie on the podcast.
For sure, man. I know. I'm sorry. Like things have been super hectic. Like these past couple of weeks, with the surgery and everything else. Just crazy things have happened, and then us being on the road, basically. I think aside from this last week, we were on the road. We were home maybe 3 days out of the last 4 weeks, 3 whole days.
That's crazy.
So it was pretty tough, but
yeah.
Right?
Well, as Yogi Berra said, somebody once asked him how his marriage lasted so long. He said, well, every time I got my wife mad, it was time for another road trip. And then by the time we got back, she missed me.
Right.
So,
let it blow over a little bit.
Yeah, the road trips are good for the marriage, right?
Right, yeah, little time away never makes her. What is that? Time away, distance makes the heart grow fonder, or something, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. So
Yeah. So, as I alluded to, like me, you're originally from Illinois. How did you get started in the game of hockey? Because the Hawks made hockey the big it thing to do, but when we were kids, not quite the case. We had Alpo Suhonen running the team, and they weren't that great.
yeah, so my dad, like I come from a hockey family actually.
Okay.
My dad, pretty much, I'm the only person in my family with all their front teeth still, so that should tell you enough about that. Thankfully for right now, that may change. I've gotten close a couple of times, but yeah, my dad, he was a hard-nosed defenseman and played in the USHL. Had a cup of coffee in the minors with the Penguin system, and then had an injury and it didn't work out. My uncle, obviously, his brother played. My cousins all played. My cousins are just the younger. There's three of them. There's three brothers. The oldest one, I believe, is 87, and then 89, and then the 90 is the youngest one. So they're a couple years ahead of me. And basically, I was hanging out with them all the time, and they were playing at that point, and basically, I had to beg my dad for like 2 years to like even just let me try. He wanted me to play golf, which not humble brag. I was in the newspaper when I was like 2 years old at a driving range hitting balls like 50 yards.
That's better than me now.
Right? Yeah. If only I could hit it as straight as I did, when I was a toddler, it'd be great. Yeah. My dad wanted me to play other sports, and eventually I just convinced him, and yeah, he finally let me, and I started off as 2 years later, made a transition to goalie, and what's that sport in minors, I would say.
So why goalie? As you mentioned, your dad was a defenseman, your cousins played. What drew you between the pipes?
I always liked, typical goalie answer. Always loved the gear, but I was a very even as a young kid, I was always trying to block shots and stuff, and I was always basically ending up in front of the net anyways, trying to block a shot.
Yep.
And then what is it in scooters or bikes or whatever? Everyone gets a turn at goalie, and I played, and I think I got absolutely shelled if I'm not mistaken. I got torn a bit, but I liked it. So yeah, and then just again more convincing, and my old man was like, whatever, it's a safe position technically, you don't gotta worry about a lot of other things that I had to worry about. We are.
Yeah. So you're growing up in Illinois. What association were you playing with?
So local organizations, I played for the Midwest Chargers, and then I played or the Northwest Chargers, and then I played for Barrington for the Red Wings for a couple of years. And that was free and post. So I even have a weird thing. I took a year break, basically from 8th grade into freshman year of high school. So I had played for Northwest Chargers growing up, and then scored majors through Kiwis. I played AAA for started off with Mission, and then went to CYA, and then TI quit the year basically right before the Pee Wee Quebec tournament, and took a year off, and then as a bantam, I played midget minors with Barrington. Wendell Young had left. He left the Chargers, and I had played with him. I'd played with him previously, and then he went to Barrington, where Gino Cavallini, who now runs a Mission, was there, and just basically followed them over there. So yeah. I've kind of played for all the organizations, a lot of them at one point or another. The only one not being, when I was growing up, it was the Chill. but now it's Fury.
Yep.
And then obviously, like, you know, the Reapers are a new organization, but I suppose my loyalties kind of lie with Mission. That's where I started, and then, you know, obviously, Gino Cavallini is a really good friend of mine, and, you know, like Aiden is one of a really good buddy of mine. One of his sons. You know, yeah, I've known Aiden since we were like 12 years old or something crazy. So we've kind of, you know, on and off grown up together, and, you know, have remained friends. So yeah, so kind of my loyalties align, I guess, with Mission.
Now, you mentioned having played for Team Illinois. One thing that has always bugged me about the Team Illinois logo is how bad that representation of the state of Illinois is. It's like, first of all, who drew that? And second of all, why have they not fixed that?
I'm pretty sure it's set up as like clip art or something.
Yeah, it's just like
before Photoshop was like, you know, big or a thing or whatever. It was, you know, just whatever they could kind of piece together.
Yeah.
And what really bugs me about leaving TI when I did is that, like, the very next season they got the black jerseys, which, like, I don't know why, but like black jerseys are always like a super big favorite of mine. I love black jerseys. And so TI, the year after I left, the black jerseys came to them, and I was like all cheesed about it. But,
you know, it's funny you say that, because I played for St. Jude growing up, and we had the black jerseys, and then they transitioned to the green. I was like, but the black was so cool.
yeah, I did. And especially with hockey, you know, especially like as the season goes on or whatever, like black just, it hides so much more. And I think, you know, to be honest, I think, you know, especially if, you know, your team looks good or whatever, it can be kind of intimidating, I guess. So
yeah,
I don't know. I've just always kind of felt more confident in like a really dark or black jersey. So.
Yeah, I get that. Now you mentioned you took that year off. Why did you take a year off at that age? You don't hear a lot of kids doing that.
So I've actually taken 2 breaks. So I took season off. You know, I had some stuff to work on, but there was a lot of politics. Even at a young age, I recognized, and thankfully in Illinois it has gotten night and day better. You know, you're not. You know, I give credit mostly due to that, to like elite prospects and like hockey DB, because you can't just lie about like what you've done and who you are, and, you know, and so on and so forth. But basically, just a lot of political stuff that I saw at a young age that I didn't agree with, and I mean at the time I thought I was, you know, standing up for myself or whatever. In hindsight, I wish I hadn't left the first time, let alone the second time. So. After my freshman year of high school, it was like I had like 2 seasons back after being about to have like sophomore year. It was like during sophomore year. I don't know. I was like 15 years old. I quit from like 15 to about the age of 20, and kind of have clawed my way back to, you know, into going to college, and then now being in the minors and bouncing around in the minors and stuff. Yeah, just thought it was, you know, what was best for me at the time. Just again thought it was more of standing up for myself for things that I didn't agree with.
Yep.
Yeah, that's, you know, basically, without getting too deep into it, that's what I thought was the best move at that time.
It's interesting, you know, when you took that second break and how long it was, and the fact that you came back, you were able to play college hockey and now play in the minors, because that's almost the prime age that you get your exposure. So, I mean, that's a testament to your athleticism and your skill, the fact that you still did play college hockey and now in the minors.
You know, I basically left during all of your prime, not only like really developmental years, going through, you know, at that point, you know, you're becoming a young else, and, you know, your body's all crazy or whatever. Not only that, but also your prime scouting years. And again, in hindsight, it probably wasn't the best decision, but at that point, I had, you know, wasn't necessarily the politics. It was just, I had a lot of personal stuff going address, and kind of get back to being, a really functional human being.
You did what was right for you.
Yeah, and I suppose that's again kind of the first time and the second time again in hindsight I really wish I would have probably handled it first, probably different, because not in a way that hockey's ever been a crutch. It's always it's always been something I've had and had in my heart, right? But it's it definitely helped, say you're having a just for even the normal person, you're having a bad day, you can play hockey, that's a pretty good day, right?
Yeah.
And so I probably took that a little bit for granted, and then especially when I did finally make the decision to at that point attempt to come back and get back in the swing of things, it was something that I really did miss, not only from a daily routine but just in general. I was working at that point. I was working at Woodfield, junior college at Harvard, and then I was working at House. They had they had a bunch of TVs installed, and basically had it was like a highlight compilation of all the local area kids in college, and then we were at that point working our way into minor leagues and stuff. And I was just like, well, I'll play with that kid, beat the piss out of that kid, hate that kid. Oh, hey, that's my buddy. It was a kind of a constant reminder of things I had done in my past. What if? And I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna give it a go again and see where it takes me. And I've definitely had a weird path. I mean, not that anyone's path is necessarily easy or linear or whatever. Everyone's path is different, but mine was definitely even to make it where I have been so far. It's definitely been an uphill battle, even more so. And I mean, mostly due to my own choices. Again, leaving for those 5, years, whatever that was. That definitely makes things harder, especially you're talking around the age of 18, 16 to 18. Those are all your prime scouting. So and especially for me, when I did play AAA, I was always in the mix of being at least relevant. So yeah, it was just it was a hard uphill battle, even more than most. But I did decide to come back when I did. Again, better late than never. Go on from there and really just literally sent it. I was like, you know what, just go for it. I've got enough regrets as is. I don't need to wake up 40 years old and be like, oh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that, or I wish I would have tried, this and that. I'd much rather, if I tried and it didn't work out, or I didn't this and that, or I just failed in somehow, way, shape, or form. I would be much more comfortable living with that.
Yeah.
And the what ifs, because that's those are things I have enough of as is, and I don't need to add to that. But also, just if you don't try, you're never gonna know. And
Right.
It's like I'm trying to make dreams a reality, right? So the only way you can do that is by going for it.
Now, as you pointed out, you took time off in the prime scouting year. Even before we get to that, you said something that resonated is, you forgot how much you liked it and needed it. And I think a lot of us realized that through COVID, that first skate back. I've talked to a couple goalies of that first skate back. You didn't realize how much you needed it, from a mental health standpoint. As I've said many times, that hour of beer league hockey a week is my hour of therapy a week.
Right, and kind of elaborating on that is, you kind of take it for granted.
Yep.
And as much as I try to be present and be in the moment and not take things for granted, it's bound to happen. don't want to, even now you're like, oh, I'm sore or whatever, kind of don't really want to go to the rink, and then you kind of got to take a step back. And you're like, you know what? Never mind. It's a good day. Like,
Yeah, it's a good sore.
Yeah, exactly, right. And especially growing up playing AAA, during those younger years and stuff. I mean, even then it was 7 days a week commitment.
Yeah.
And kind of moving myself, moving that daily, I guess, routine, if you will. Really kind of, I'd gone from basically, not having any free time to all of a sudden having way too much free time. And that kind of, I wouldn't say led to, but definitely contributed to a lot of my problems. So it definitely, definitely took it for granted, and it's definitely good to have back now. It keeps me, for lack of a better word, it keeps me sane. So
Yeah, no, it makes sense. As you noted, you took time off in the prime years of being scouted, but you get back into hockey and you still wind up playing college hockey. How did that journey happen that you still wind up on the team?
Yeah. So basically, when I got back and kind of made the decision to give it another shot again, I landed in Mason City, Iowa, just basically like an extended tryout. It was the NA3 at that point. Like my pops knew one of his old coaches, and basically through a grapevine, I'd just basically cold called people and basically convinced the guy to just give me a look. And I was in no way, shape, or form ready to even be in Mason City when I was there. I had flare pants, like I had TPS bionic gloves that were illegal. I just didn't even know the rules changed, like things like that.
Yeah.
And then had a couple months off. I think that was when I was like 19 and a half or something. Because my birthday is in June. I get to play that full next year or whatever, and not be an overager. And so during the summer, I'd gone to, I think it was like 5 or 6 NA combines, the NAHL combines, and I think it was like the Springfield Junior Blues, like Topeka Roadrunners. Like I had gone to every single one. I was working at Seven Bridges, building the rink when Coyote was updating the rink there at Seven Bridges before they moved. And I had seen that Topeka was coming in, and basically I convinced the equipment manager to somehow slide my name, in the mix, and basically had to beg for even a chance there. And then, just, kind of again through a grapevine, a friend of mine, Robbie Hall, his dad, we'd grown up together. His dad.
That's a familiar name.
Yeah, Robbie Hall. Yeah. But yeah, his dad had a couple of contacts in Canada, and Robbie was playing at that point. He was playing in the OJ, but he had played a couple previous years it was the CCHL. I'm not sure what it's called now. Before me, it was the CJHL. That kind of basically around the Ottawa league, you call it spin balls. So I had ended up basically on a whim, just headed to Brockville, and was there for like 2 months. Again, still trying to figure out like how to play goalie again, and trying to figure out how to skate. I was there for a couple months. Got released right around Christmas, and then was kind of just like bouncing around, practicing with like whomever I could. And then at the time, one of my childhood goalie coaches, Kelly G, he was one of the coaches for the Chicago Steel. And then so basically because of like an on-start break and then to a guy that they had, they just needed like basically like a glorified practice goalie and a guy to just basically back up in the games. And it was like a 3-week long, which like led me up into March, and then I got clipped like at the deadline, officially, whatever. And basically, Kelly had called me like a week later, couple weeks later, and I'll never forget this conversation. Kelly reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, Carp, like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, Matt Hooters, my old man, and my sister, we're about to eat." I completely irrelevant, but I really do enjoy Hooters wings. Like, I know that they make me a psychopath, but I really do. Especially if they take going to beach sauce. I love it. But yeah, I was at Hooters, and Kelly was like, "All right, the Chicago Blackhawks are going to give you a call in a couple of minutes." And I was like, "Kelly, like, expletive, don't, expletive, mess around with me. I don't know if I'm still going to be able to play." He's like, "Just wait." And lo and behold, the Blackhawks called, and that was the 2012 and the 2013 season. Ray Emery had just gotten hurt, RFD. He had just gotten hurt right before playoffs, and at that point, Hutton was already called up. You had Carlson at that point, who was already also called up, and they just physically couldn't call up another guy. And yeah, I basically just practiced with the Black Aces for the whole entire Cup run.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so talk about a turn of events. The 6 months prior, like, being on my couch, and then March, April, May, all of a sudden, with guys who were our first call-ups for a team that ends up winning the Stanley Cup, and I still see some of the guys, like Brandon Fury, Adam Glendenning. Again, I sat next to Jimmy Hayes in the locker room, who was amazing. Everything you've ever heard about him being, an amazing dude in the life of the room. It's all 100% true. The guy would give you his shirt off his back. You had Steve Monador as well, who's, again, also unfortunately no longer with us. There's a bunch of guys in that room who, are now had made, NHL careers and are still playing and stuff. So it was, quite a turn of events. And then basically, my coach, my future coach, Rick Sambo, is originally from the Chicagoland area as well. It's funny, my old man had played against him, and then my uncle had actually played with him. But he used to run this thing called the Monster Showcase, which was always in, like, I don't know, I forget the Chicago suburb. But he would always run that, and I was training with a bunch of college kids at the time, and just so happened to be at the rink, and had reached out to him through again another kind of like bridge contact, and called Jay Fine, and we had a meeting, and he was like, "Cody, I'll give you a chance. I'll give everyone a chance, but you probably won't make my team, and you probably won't make my team." And that's kind of all I needed to hear. Just being able to give the shot, and then I guess the rest is history. So
That's awesome. And then so you wind up playing college. Now you're moving around in the minors. Not a bad place right now. You're in Pensacola, sitting on the beach.
Yeah, Pensacola Beach. I live about 85 feet from the actual ocean. There are definitely worse places to be, and especially for me being see-through, like skin tone, I do need as much sun as I can get, and I love being on the beach as much as my skin tone might say otherwise. I do enjoy my time in the sun, so
yeah.
Definitely, again, another type thing, just gave me a chance. I to stay for the current time, and help be part of the team. Definitely, just thankful here, especially thankful be in sunny Florida, and be able to enjoy things like this. A couple hours ago, I got to play hockey, and then now, that's it's pretty cool.
Now, when we had originally scheduled a time to talk, but you wound up having surgery, like last minute. What happened, and what did you have to get fixed?
Just an absolute freak accident. Not even hockey related. It was actually on our bus on the way home. So we had just played a 3-3 in Roanoke, Virginia. We were on the way home. It was like midnight, maybe like around 1. I gotten up to go to the bathroom, and the bus driver, which is again a freak accident. My teammate in front of me had started to close the door. The bus driver had kind of like not really slammed on the brakes, but kind of put some pressure on him. So I leaned forward and kind of reached out, and my one hand ended up being in the door jamb, and then my teammate at that literal exact same time was closing the door, and thankfully my finger was literally in the door, and thankfully he didn't close the door all the way, otherwise I wouldn't have had a fingertip. Bunch of stitches, and then they called it a finger bed reconstruction, which I guess with this type of injury, especially they told me, number one, I was super fortunate that I didn't have an infection. I guess with this type of injury, a really common thing is for the finger bed to get infected, and then the bone gets infected, and then you could lose the whole finger. And then not only that, but because it degloved completely, which is the medical term, degloved, basically just a fancy meaning for it was all the way off. But yeah, I was just really lucky, frankly. I number one, didn't get an infection. Number two, didn't have a break in my fingertip. Number three, didn't have any tendon damage. Somehow just missed all 3 of those.
Yeah.
And had to get put under, and basically had to put my fingertip back together, and it's yeah, so it's there.
Now it looks like a carpenter's finger where you just hit it with the hammer.
I just missed the nail, basically. But yeah, just an absolute freak accident. And not that injuries are ever cool to anyone, but this one sucked, especially a lot more just because it wasn't hockey related. And, and because they wanted me to take a bunch of time off just to make sure that it did not get infected, because especially being in a glove, especially a goalie glove, your finger stalls and everything. I basically had to practice with one hand behind my back for a couple of times, and again, just a crazy turn of events. For those, I mentioned that we were on the road a bunch over these last couple of weeks, so we only really practiced a couple of times, which I guess in my case was a good thing. Because I literally could not fit my finger in my finger stall in my glove. So, and then basically as soon as I was able to wrap it up to not have to be so intrusive, and then didn't have crazy amounts of pain or anything, thankfully I was able to play, and it was only a week, but it was the longest week of ever.
Yeah.
It was just it basically sucked a lot. Kind of felt like I was letting everybody down. But again, just an absolute freak accident on the bus, and you try to minimize those as much as possible. But I guess at the end of things, I still have my finger, so my fingertip, whatever. So,
your days of a hand.
I have a pretty gnarly scar going all the way past that first fumble. So yeah, I don't think I'm selling any pictures anytime soon. Anything. So
it's always tough when you see your team on the ice and you can't be out there with them.
Yeah, and not to minimize any injury. especially the ones that don't happen on the ice. You know, those are like, oh, what the heck, you know? Like,
Yeah.
those suck it a little bit more than, you know, hey, like, you know, when it happened, I'd sent a picture to one of my buddies, and I was like, you know, crap. And my buddy was like, oh, same thing happened to me. He puckered up my stick. And I was like, actually, I just got to close the door. But it was like, oh, what? Like,
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So, you know, could play it off like it was a hockey injury, and, you know, whatever. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
it wasn't.
It's one thing if it's a really cool off-ice story, but when it's like got it stuck in a door, you're like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Like, you know, it was again just a freak accident. You know, at the day, whatever. I got a scar. I'm gonna lose my fingernail, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
when you look at in the broad
older,
spectrum, in the broad spectrum and scope of things, like just a blip on the radar and whatever. Like, you know, I have my fingertips still, so
yeah.
I can move it fully. You know, there's thankfully the medical staff are treating it as best she could. But, you know, again, we were on the bus, so like, you know, 8 hours to go until we're home. She acted awesome. Quickly, you know, got it taken care of as much as she could, and then, you know, the very next day I had surgery. So thankfully got all taken care of, you know, really quickly.
Yeah.
They said it was relatively everything's healed. So
yeah,
whatever, but it sucked for a little bit. But, you know, that's sometimes that's life. You know, some days you're the bird, some days you're the statue. So
yeah.
So yeah, but everything's good now. You know, just a little bit of bad luck, and, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it is
How we're doing.
it is what it is. You're back on the ice, back with the team, and you know.
Yeah. And you know, thankfully it, you know, it wasn't anything worse. You know, thankfully it wasn't like multiple fingers or anything else, or, you know, something crazy like that. Where, you know, I was only out for, you know, a couple of days, you know, and then was still practicing, but just, you know, before I got back. So at least I was able, you know, to stay on the ice, even in a limited role. Thankfully, you know, and you know, again, just kind of was fortunate on that, and that it just wasn't any worse. And, you know, now we have a couple more games, you know, before playoffs, especially to kind of find that groove again, because I felt like I was, you know, not only the guys, but personally as well. I was seeing pucks really well, playing really well. So, you know, we've got a couple more, you know, more weeks to really find that groove again and get right back into it and kind of pick up where I left off. So.
Yeah. So, you know, it's clear, you know, you're playing in the minor leagues, but, you know, I think when a lot of hockey players think minor leagues, they think the AHL and then maybe the ECHL, but there's more leagues than that. But as we know, minor league sports in general, life isn't as glamorous as some would think. It's a lot of bus time, as you pointed out. You're not making Ovechkin money. You know, what is life in the minors like?
You know, us here in Pensacola, we've got it. You know, our owner and our whole organization is absolutely great. We couldn't want more. All of our staff is just incredible. You know, it's hard to complain. So, yeah, you know, it's a lot of people, you know, say they want to do things, and don't necessarily realize what you have to give up to make that happen. You know, there's a lot of sacrifices. Not, you know, not to be personal, but everyone who plays takes any of those, you know, next step, whether it be, you know, college or junior or whatever. You know, that's definitely it's not only a personal commitment, but it's a commitment in your life, really. You know, sorry, you know, driving you this or there, you know, somehow get you a beater car or something, so you can go drive. The chances are you're probably not playing at home, and if you are, you're very fortunate. But for me, I moved to a different country, and show up at somebody's doorstep who I'd never met and be like, hey, I'm living with you guys now. So
hope you're not a serial killer.
no. I've had, thankfully, the bullets that I have had have been nothing short of extraordinary. So, yeah, it's definitely, it's a definite commitment. People like to think, oh, you just, 2 hours at the rink or 3 hours at the rink, which, some days it is, if that's what your body needs. But, for me, like, when I'm home in Chicago, basically as soon as any of the Blackhawks start skating, or any of the pro guys who live in Chicago start skating, which more often than not is, you really only have off a couple of weeks, and then, it starts off kind of slow, but for a good portion of my summer, I am on the ice and we're training five days a week for pretty much from like 8 a.m. And then, I've got, my other adults. Again, I'm super thankful. I work for GoalieMarks.com and the Eagle Pro Shop in Darien.
Yep, I've ordered from them before.
and thankfully, I get to come home. My boss is, absolutely basically as long as I give him enough heads up, I get to work around my training schedule, which not only like being able to work in hockey on the outside of things, but also having a boss that is not only completely understanding, but is the first one of the first people like last season when I got a call to head to Cleveland. He was the first person being like, "Yep, no, go, don't worry about it. We'll figure out." He was just go. And I was like, "Okay," So yeah, so I'm super fortunate and thankful for that to be even in the future for me. My whole basically hockey career as some of I found some really bad apples, but I found some really genuinely incredible human beings that have been nothing short of extraordinary. And that goes my bosses or Ryan Kane, who works for the Blackhawks, but also is Prodigy Hockey. Again, it's involved with the Blackhawks organization, but also again does his own skill stuff. Wendell Young back in the day, Kenny McCudden, all these people have and there's a ton of other people that I've given me opportunities, or even if it's just like, hey, I've got a couple of pro guys, do you want to it's not going to be a fun skate for you, but do you want to come out? It's absolutely, yep, I'll be there what time. Yeah, it's a definite commitment, but it's definitely made easier by your support system, and thankfully I've had an incredible support system. Actually, back home, it's all that stuff can be quite arduous, tedious, and insert word here, but it's all worth it at the end of the day for me. And just as far as I can for my legs. Yeah, it's a definite commitment. I kind of alluded to it earlier, but a lot of people say I want to play pro, or I want to go play college hockey, or I want to go play junior, but they don't realize what that means. Like there's yeah, you might want to do this, but you might not want to give up, your free time. You might not want to give up your weekends, and you might want to go to, if you're in high school, you might want to, oh, sorry, I can't make homecoming or prom, like things like that. For me, I've lost, some really really close friends. Just like kind of this, weddings, big events and things of that nature. Just because I physically could not be there, and either couldn't be there, or couldn't take time off, or was in the season, or was on a bus, things like that. And it's very definitely, sometimes it's very stressful, and you can have a tough time with relationships, keeping relationships, not only like romantic ones, but friendships. Because the fact of the matter is that you don't live on that.
No.
It's not normal for anyone to move away for a good portion of the year, and be on a bus in a different state every single weekend, or whatever. And back home for a couple months, be like, hey, let's pick up where we left off. That's very difficult for a lot of people to do, and especially if you're not really familiar with hockey. Like people, I literally had a conversation a couple days ago that with somebody who was like, hey, I haven't seen you around in a little bit. Like, where have you been? I was like, living in Florida. So it's definitely, it's a definite commitment, and it's very very hard on a lot of things. As awesome as everything is, it can definitely make having a girlfriend, serious relationships, things like that, very very difficult on a lot of people. And among other things, friendships, again, seeing your family, like it's been a very, I think it's been over a year since I've seen my mom, unfortunately. Things like that. So it's, again, just very, very hard sometimes. But at the end of the day, you're not to be cliche or anything, but your real ones support you, and understand, that you're giving a run at your dreams, or giving it everything, and if they truly are good friends or family, and I don't mean family just because of my people I'm related. I have best friends that are just as much family, if not more. But all those people who are really and truthfully there for you, they're going to be there even if you're not physically around. So again, it kind of falls back to that, having an incredible support system. Um, for myself, thankfully, I'm fortunate enough to really have an incredible support system. Family, nothing short of amazing. And, so it's been very difficult at times, but it's all been a little bit easier.
Yep. So I want to be mindful of time, because we've been talking almost an hour here. Every episode, I close out the episode with a list of 10 questions, and they're the same 10 questions I've asked every single guest. So, I've had high school kids on, I've had NHL Hall of Famers on. They've been asked the same questions. And the first one is, what's the craziest coaching moment from your playing days?
Oh, okay, that I can share publicly. Publicly without getting too much into trouble. So this is, what is this? This is 2 seasons ago. I was in Columbus in the Fed. We were playing Carolina. The game got super out of hand. Penalties, fights, this, that, blah, 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 blah. And this was our actual last game of the season before it got canceled. None of us knew, whatever, but it ended up being the last game. And so, I think we were down like 6 going into the third period, and like going into the third, I think we were going to be on like a 5-minute 5-on-3 or something. Like it was a really, really like a crazy situation. And our coach, kind of, he was like, hey, if they want the circus, and then one of our guys was like, bring the tent. And yeah, so to expedite this, me and my goalie partner, basically my coach was like, hey, go in there. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, just go in. So basically my coach basically had me and my goalie partner change every whistle. And then it turned into us playing rock, paper, scissors every whistle, which had gotten a little bit of, I guess, I don't want to even say publicity. If anything, it was more of like infamy on the internet for a little bit. But then, the game ended up being in a bench clearing brawl. Whatever I fought, everyone fought. Like it was, that was. But yeah, my coach basically being like, I go in every whistle, change with ruts every whistle. And I was like, okay. And there's a lot of other stories I wish I could share, but for the sake of
that's a
a
decent
little
one.
bit of privacy. Yeah, a little bit of privacy. That's
Yeah. So, what's your favorite all-time goalie mask?
my favorite all-time goalie mask. Probably Blackhawks earlier ones where my favorite animal is a shark. I love the San Jose Sharks. Wild Man, Steve Parker, and Junior Suter. The Suiters are family friends of ours. Yeah, I'd seen Yevgeny Nabokov really early, but he had like a cool shark on the bottom, but then he had this crazy like alien. Yeah, that's probably one of Yevgeny Nabokov's sharks early on mass.
I remember that.
Teal and
Yep.
the teal and everything else, like just so cool to me. And yeah, I think that's like really got
That teal I think lends itself to some sweet looking goalie setups and masks. I mean, I loved Eddie Belfour, but his short stint in San Jose, God, did that Eagle mask look so good with teal and those Coopers. It was just like that looked really good.
In Toronto, yeah, even his blue, like my favorite color is blue, so I'm obviously a little bit partial, but even his, again, his brief time in Toronto, that blue Eddie the Eagle mask was incredible. And then it's funny that you mentioned that because the last basically like the last season before I got my logo one, I was using an Eddie the Eagle paint job, and then I'd actually coached a camp where he came down and visited and got to show him, mask and stuff. And I'm pretty sure that's actually how we started talking to even come down. Is somebody showed him, like they're like, hey, like this guy, like blah blah blah. Here's his mask. He was like, really? Like that's
yeah.
And then
I've had Eddie on the podcast, and I like him. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's absolutely one of a kind. Obviously a legend in every way, shape, and form. And
Yep.
Yeah, how sick goalie mask, and just I do enjoy masks that why I like team oriented masks. I think it's kind of cheesy when it's like overdoing this. But I always think it's cool to kind of have like a design, like obviously Yevgeny Nabokov had like his alien and everything else, like the alien skeleton kind of guy. You've had Kipper had his skulls, things like that.
Yeah.
I think those are cool, and especially when you can make them team oriented. And I think it's
Yeah, well, it's interesting to say you like the team-oriented mask, but not when they go overly done with a team logo. And I was talking to Connor Beaupre, and he talked about his dad's masks. And his dad wanted something team-oriented, but without using the team logo. And I never realized that until I went back and looked at him. His North Stars mask was beautiful. Didn't have the North Stars logo. His Capitals one, beautiful. No Capitals logo. But then he goes to Ottawa, and you'll notice, his Capitals when he has the Capitol building in Ottawa, it's basically the Capitals version. But for Ottawa, it's got because it's the capital. As we learned in the movie Canadian Bacon, Ottawa is the real capital of Canada.
not Toronto, not Montreal. Still not
Yeah. Yep. But I'm with you. I love a good team oriented. But a guy like Belfour and a guy like Cujo showed that you can have a mask that is specific to you, but still make it team oriented at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Poppin, I mean, his masks, you know, everywhere he went, he had something team oriented. I always think of the one in LA where, you know, the cat was clawing the crowns on the side. I think that was one of the best ones.
Yeah, it's you know, and again, I kind of grew up when those guys were, you know, kind of in their tail end. Cujo for me, you know, a couple years into my young career when I was in AAA and stuff, he had just moved to the Red Wings. The Cujo dog. But again, made it fit with the team, but still kept some of your personal flair. I really do. I think that's one of the cool things about being able to have a painted goalie mask, or a raft or whatever have you. Goalie mask is that you can make it your own, but also still keep it team oriented, but still personal.
Yep.
So for me, that's what's coolest about them. You know, especially things like backplates. Like my backplate is super personal. That design probably is not going to change very much. You know, in my next coming whatever I decide to do in the future for mass. But yeah, it's again, keeping it team oriented is always important. I just think it's much better when you have that personality and personal touch, but also can still make it work with it.
Yeah. So the next question, what's your favorite rink that you've played at?
Oh, as far as like ice conditions go, or like just in general?
In general.
That's tough. I love the Fifth Third Arena in downtown Chicago. I might as well have a cot in the locker room there. With how often I'm there and how much time I spend there. And that sounds a bit like 2,000. It's not that. I think just for like nostalgia reasons, probably the Edge in Bentonville. I've had there. Was fortunate enough in college. That's where the year that we had won nationals. That's where it was hosted in Chicago. So it was super cool to have all my family there. When I had a couple of buddies playing in Chicago, a couple of them came out and had watched me, play when I was in town. So it's always had, good memories for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd probably say the Edge. The rink on the left, not the crap one on the right.
Yeah, I remember skating there when it opened. I'm an SIA guy because that's where I learned to skate at the Murray Bannerman Learn to Skate back in the day. But
Murray was one of my coaches at CYA. So.
Yeah, he was an interesting fellow, that's for sure. But hey, because of him, I learned how to skate, and I remember at that Learn to Skate going, one day I'm going to be better than Murray Bannerman. Then I was watching him play in the Stadium Series up in Minnesota, and I sitting on the couch going, "Yep, I've reached that point. I'm better than him now."
Right.
Doesn't matter that he's probably 60 years old, still playing hockey, and I can be that. But yeah, he's
still got it.
Yeah, he's still got it. What's your favorite stick that you've ever used?
My favorite stick. Let's see. So I gotten a pro return, and this was like the last run of like the made in Finland foam cores from Warrior. Let's see. Oh yeah, it was a Matt Climate return. Basically, I was out with a buddy of mine at this point, out with a buddy, literally just playing grad at Hoffman, and I think they just got eliminated, and they were cleaning out their locker room for the season. Climate came up and handed me one of his sticks and was like, "Here you go, bud." And I was like, "Oh, gnarly." Because that was like their last year of the Wolves affiliation, I think, with the Vancouver Canucks, and I think that next year they were switching to St. Louis. Mm-hmm. He was like, "Yeah, like I can't use it anyways." Like, yeah, it was the curve has been something I've been trying to find and replicate. Pretty much ever since I got that stick, and feel super confident with it, and I love where you're going. Old or whatever, just really love that stick.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's probably been the favorite one that I've used. Now, if I could build one completely top to bottom custom that my team would order, that might be a little bit different. But currently, yeah, that's probably my favorite.
That's not a bad stick. I like those Warrior foam cores myself, and they're just hard to find now. Yeah. What is your favorite youth hockey memory?
Favorite youth hockey memory? That's kind of hard to narrow down. Probably in general, like looking back on it, my first year in sport majors with the mission, just because, and then like looking back on it, on sport majors, like 10 or 9 made it in the pros, like there were some guys in that team who were on NHL deals that, a couple that had to stop due to injury, but we're on slate to go draft and probably would have made a hell of a career. Yeah, probably that team. Probably personally, just because it was Ottawa too. We're in Ottawa. It was like it was like the All-Star game or whatever. I got player of the game because I had a really good day and had brand new TPS ice caps that I had worn, but I was like, "Dad, I can wear them." Bring your own ones. Yeah, it stood on my head with brand new pads. Yeah, I still have that trophy at my dad's. Actually, a couple of my old pads. So yeah, probably that year, but specific just because it's such a cool thing. It was at that point it was like just like personally for me. Hindsight, it was probably on like a couple thousand people. Oh, sick! So many people here. So.
Yeah. It's funny you say it because this last weekend was the Minnesota Boys High School Hockey Tournament, and I went to one of the semifinal games, and I have a coworker who's a big hockey fan that lives out in San Jose, and I took a picture of the arena, and the whole bottom bowl for the semifinal game for the single A, which is the small schools, was packed on a Friday afternoon when we should all be working. And she's like,
Yep.
It's just different there. She's like, there's more people at that game than there were at the last Sharks game I went to. But then on Championship Saturday for both the A and AA game, the XL Energy Center was packed to capacity, 18,000 plus people for high school hockey games. And it's just like, crazy.
Yeah, I have a couple of teammates who are from, the cities area. And yeah, that's a big deal and stuff. And it's just like, it's so cool, especially because around Chicago and Illinois, and I mean, most states, high school hockey isn't really like a big deal, and it's not school supported and definitely not school funded. But places like, obviously out east coast, the prep schools, but also like places like Alaska, and then obviously, the big one being Minnesota, like, playing for your school is a big deal.
Yeah.
it's great because you see all the kids, get all the support from the rest of the school. Like it's the cool thing to do, as opposed to when I was going through high school, especially my first 2 seasons, basically until the Hawks won the first time the year I graduated high school in 2010. Like I remember getting made fun of for playing hockey in high school, and now it's like okay.
Yep. Yeah, it was a little different for me in high school in that, like you said, it's not a school sponsored team, but you're still affiliated with the school. And,
Right.
I went to Brother Rice and played in the Catholic League where, because it was a Catholic League, they have a tradition of hockey dating back to, the 60s, even longer, I think. So it's like the school had a tradition of hockey, but it still wasn't on the same level as the basketball team or the football team. It was
Right,
like,
exactly.
we were those, it was the late 90s. So it was like, there's the grunge skater kids over there wearing their hockey jerseys,
Yeah. Take off your Nirvana shirts.
Yeah. But it was like, we had a small but loyal following of classmates that would come to our games. Nothing like it is now. I look at some of the pictures the school posts of the hockey games, and they got the stands packed. I'm like, where were you guys?
Yeah, which is like, where were you guys when we were playing?
Yeah,
but
it's great for the sport.
Yeah, exactly. And to see just kind of the not so much paradigm shift, but see the just change of, I guess, culture surrounding it. Hockey is no longer really like an outcast sport.
Yeah,
per se. And
it's not a fringe anymore. It's one of the main sports of the school.
Yeah, and I mean it'll always be kind of a cult sport, but at least it's getting some of the support. And people I think a lot more people. I think even year after year, especially in Chicago, with the Hawks and all their success, definitely makes it way more people who are normally not necessarily looking or watching hockey all of a sudden turn hockey on and like, oh dang, this is super cool and fast paced.
Yeah, they've learned it's fun to watch. You don't have to know what's going on. It's just a fun atmosphere. It's fun to watch.
Right.
And it's good. So the next question: what's the best chirp you've heard on the ice, off the ice, directed at you, not directed at you?
I mean, me because I'm currently involved. A lot of the ball chirps are pretty funny about like light shining off my head. Like, man, you got scored on anymore. Like your top of your head would be sunburned. Like those are always funny. And I'm trying to keep it PG. And that can be pretty difficult when it comes to chirps. But
yeah, because as Gordie Howe said, all hockey players are bilingual. They're fluent in profanity.
Yeah. So let me see if I can think of one that six. I mean, I heard one. I forgot where I heard it. It was like, buddy, I've made more in the last 2 months or last like 2 weeks. I've made more in the last 2 weeks than you will in your entire hockey career. That was a good one. Like I heard recently, and it's funny because obviously being in the minors, like that could be kind of a sensitive issue and stuff.
Yeah.
And not to complain about.
Excuse me.
Oh, you're good. Not to complain about that, but it's just funny. It's hard to think of like one that predominantly sticks out because most of mine, I want to say, have a lot of swears and very bad things. But yeah, with my teammate in front of this past weekend, some guy was giving him a hard time, and he like it was a significantly small guy was giving him a hard time, and he goes, hey wait, turn around, and the guy turned around. and my teammate was just like, oh, I just wanted to make sure, like, find out who you are because I have no idea. Just like the way he said it was just like who are you? Like it was
nice.
that with being trying to keep it PG.
Yeah, there are a few words in there.
Yeah, there was another couple of things said, but that probably as far as PG goes, yeah.
Yeah,
That's been the best one
I like it.
recently.
So what is the worst post-game beer you've had?
First post game beer.
Beer. Beverage.
Beer. Oh,
Yeah.
Well, beer, I guess, in the same category sometimes. Post game beers, I'm not a huge one for post game beers, to be completely honest. Honestly, I have to drink like a ton of Pedialyte, as funny as that sounds. Because so for this past game, I dropped 9 pounds in the game. So like normally if I have a beer, it's hitting me right away. But probably like a warm cream ale.
Yeah.
Those are never good.
Yeah.
And let alone like after like I'm all hot and sweaty and it's like, oh god, like what is but yeah, that especially being from Chicago, Malort is prevalent, and I'm seriously convinced that not a single person actually likes Malort. It's just they want to sound like they like Malort.
See, Malort really wasn't a thing when I was growing up, so thank God I've never had it. But everybody I've talked to, everybody I've talked to, like the theory is the makers of Malort were like, we want to make the most disgusting thing possible and make it seem like it's a thing here just to get tourists and people visiting us to try it. It's almost like we're playing a prank on them.
Yeah, the Chicago handshake, shot at Malort and the PBR. Hey, here you go. Here's the shot. Oh, thanks, bud. Yeah. So, that's been in the locker room only thankfully one time, and I think that was mostly as a joke, just seeing it. I'm taking my time with this. So
thank God I've never had it. Usually when I'm home, my cousins always like Miller Lite, but it would usually be like old style or, that was usually free flow. Because I'm a Southside kid. I grew up in the Beverly Mount Greenwood neighborhood where they have the Southside Irish Parade. So it was like, we were beer drinkers where I came from. It wasn't the hard stuff,
Yeah,
and straight up beer.
And like I saw like a meme or something recently that was like, the old style like a bar sign.
Yeah.
Like people didn't realize that was the actual beverage. Like they just saw that meant like a bar.
Well, the old style cans where they had like the pictures on it was always trying to find the frog on the can as a kid, and then you'd find the person that was drunk and you'd tell them to find the hitchhiker and they'd be just looking for a long time. You're like, you couldn't find it? No. And it's just like, somebody must have picked them up.
Yeah. But I not a huge beer guy, especially like post skates, but in the select men's league games that I've played and been a part of, probably Malort is even in there, but like probably I think somebody brought like cream ales as like a joke, or it was like around like I don't know, some weird time, it just happened to be there.
Yeah, you're not bringing cream ales into the locker room in a serious way. It is as a joke.
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, like I've had people bring stouts, and it's like they just really like stouts. Okay, but it's like you realize you brought it for hockey and not like just to get. They apologized. First of all, they offered me one before the game. It's like, you want me to stop pucks, right? Like, that's a heavy beer.
I'm trying to throw up.
The person was even like, I didn't think this one through when I grabbed the beer before I left.
Thanks, bud. Clearly,
it's like after the game, after I've had something light and almost like water, then I'll have the stout, but not before the game or immediately after. So when you tape your stick, do you go heel to?
Give me some time.
Yeah, when you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
I am a strict heel to toe.
Okay, good. You're like most goalies. I had not one but two goalies say if you go toe to heel, you're a psychopath. I wouldn't go out on that limb myself, but it's heel to toe for most of us.
Yeah, I'm very strict, heel to toe. Yep.
So
Not gonna change it.
what's your favorite number to wear and why?
Number one, I think it's more of just like a mental thing. I think in the years that I've personally had like more like personal success, I think number one. I try to not think too much based, get superstitious or whatever. But I probably feel most comfortable in number one. I think just your classic goalie number. I'm wearing 35 now, which is again a great number. Wore 33 a couple of times. Again, a bunch of friends have had that number, and I used to enjoy that number. As a kid, I started with 35, then changed to 20. But I think overall, probably number one is my favorite.
Yeah, I've got my numbers that I like to wear, but at the end of the day, I'm just happy to have a jersey on.
Right. And then, especially in the minors, for like me personally, it's just whatever they decide to give me. So
yeah, just give me a jersey. I don't care what's on there.
Right.
So the last question: what advice do you have for young goalies?
For young goalies, I would say you've got to love it, and and I don't mean because playing hockey, it's I think it's the best sport. It's the most humbling, the most challenging. You could have the best game of your life and still lose 1-0.
Yep.
Things like that. For me, I think I guess not to like make it sound again kind of cliche or anything, but I think for me the story has been just how bad do you want it and are you willing to work hard enough? And because I think that's one thing that that'll never be denied is hard work. And that doesn't always mean being yes, obviously putting the extra time in the gym or on the ice, whatever, that obviously plays a huge part. But there's a lot more to that too. Sometimes that means taking the hard decision. Where I need to go to bed. Not play video games for another 3 hours, things like that. So I guess in short, work harder than everyone else. And there's it's only so long until you can only be denied for so long if you're working harder than anyone else. I think success, and I think that good things that happen to you. Like I don't believe in luck. Because I think that if I believed in luck, the only luck I would have is bad luck. So there's my whole spiel on that. I think that good things come to you when you're doing the right things and working hard, and especially if you're working harder than anyone else. Well, then I think it's pretty easy to let whatever happens happen and kind of go from there. But I would say the advice is work harder than anyone else and love it. And I mean truly love it, because as athletes, and it doesn't matter what sport you're in or what you do, and just in general, we only have so long on this earth, and especially to play an incredible sport. We're essentially all of our clocks are just counting down and ticking away. So really love it and enjoy it as much as you can, and the rest will follow wherever that'll take you.
That's great advice. Well, Cody, thanks for joining me on the podcast, and glad we were able to reschedule after the injury. It's all worked out. Where can folks find you on social media if they want to follow you the rest of the season here?
Sorry, you kind of skipped out there. What you asked?
I was saying, where can folks find you on social media if they want to follow you the rest of the season here?
So my Instagram is Purple Pedialyte. As funny as that is, again, post game that I absolutely need. Purple Pedialyte is my Instagram. I guess I'm probably most active on there for sure. So yeah.
And I'll put a link to it in the show notes too, because, well, goalies are lazy and we don't want to have to search. So we'll make it easy for them. So thanks again, and enjoy the rest of the sunshine today on the beach.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for working with me with this scheduling mayhem.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch, and if the travels bring you through the Twin Cities, or I'm in Chicago at the same time, we'll have to get together and have some drinks and share some stories.
Just no malort.
No, God no. Or cream ales.
Yeah, no way. No way.
All right. Have a good one, bud.
All right. Thank you.
I wish I was the one on the beach for this conversation because I find watching waves super relaxing. Either way, it's always fun talking to fellow goalies who also played their youth hockey in the Chicagoland area. Be sure to follow Cody on Instagram by searching for Purple Pedialyte. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube simply by searching for Wash Up Goalie, and I'll pop up. Visit washupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights, and of course, all podcast episodes. If you want some Wash Up Goalie or Tendy Talk apparel, be sure to visit my Threadless shop by clicking the merchandise link on my website. If you like this podcast, go listen to the BLPA Big Show. It's the OG BLPA Podcast Network show where a couple of beer league players talk beer league hockey, draft experience shenanigans, and exploits from around the game. Be sure to check out the full lineup of hockey-related podcasts on the Hockey Podcasts Network as well. There are too many to list here, but shows like the Soda Pod, the Habs Nightly Podcast, and the Canadians Connection Podcast can all be found. I need to thank the band The Zambonis for allowing me to use their music at my podcast. You can download their music on iTunes or listen wherever you stream music from. I'm always working on lining up other goalies to talk to. If you are a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. Let's not forget, if you're a brand that wants to sponsor the show, be sure to reach out to me and I'd be happy to talk. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's a quick action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. So, until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.
Yeah, dude.
Hey, have you checked out the pond today?
It's funny you ask. I was just down there this morning.
Yeah, any good news?
Well, Dave, the pond